Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Justin the Food Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm your host. That's Bizzarro, and you can reach out to me on Instagram and Facebook at Justin Bizzarro. So today I have with us Andrew Lacayo from San Carlos, California. How are you doing today, Andrew?
Hey, brother. Dude, I'm amazing, man.
And Andrew is the founder of Wasteland Mixed Drinks. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
So, Andrew, tell us about yourself, how you got into being a beverage entrepreneur, and sort of your background and what led you to this.
Yeah, absolutely. So pretty much, so me, I'm in the Bay Area, California, which is I'm in San Carlos, like you said. I'm 25 years old, and so for the past 4 years, I've been working on my business, Wasteland Mixed Drinks, which is a alcoholic beverage company. So a little bit about me. So I grew up out here in California. I had a pretty good life. My dad's a doctor, my mom's a nurse, and I always grew up in a really nice environment, but I always really wanted something more. Ever since the seventh grade, I always was like, I really wanted to have my own business. I've always been a bit of a rebel. I've always kind of wanted to do my own thing and be my own man and kind of, get out there and do it on my own. And so when I was 18, I got in my first business activity, which was a multi-level marketing venture, which, honestly, it didn't go very well, but I learned a lot from it. And even before that, actually, when I was really young, when I was in middle school, I was a kid. I would always try to go and sell like the little stuff they'd give us at school for the school contests. I wanted to go to every single door and knock, and sell. Unfortunately, I was kind of put on hold by my parents. They didn't really like that because they didn't want me to annoy people. But that was that, yeah, right. That was the drive that I had even from a young age. I didn't care. Like they were like, hey, you're going to annoy people. I was like, and what's your point? Yeah, I didn't care at all. Right. Like I wanted to get out there and get after it. And so I've always kind of had that gene or that kind of that tick or whatever you want to call it from an early age. And so, like I said, I did a multi-level marketing company when I was 18, and I did really poorly because I thought I knew everything, frankly, and I had a big ego, and it was a typical 18-year-old, kid thing. And I got my ass kicked, right? And so I learned a lot from that, and that's when I started to really dive deep into personal development and all these entrepreneurs that you see online, Grant Cardone, Gary Vee, Tony Robbins and the like. And I started to read Robert Kiyosaki. The first book I read was Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah. And
I started to really get into the learning business and finances, and that's when my mind really was expanded, right? And that's when I really first understood what was actually possible. So from then on there, I was just kind of looking, after I stopped doing that multi-level marketing gig, I was looking for my next thing to do. And what it ended up being was this website thing, right? And so when I was doing that, I was about almost 20 or so. And I was maybe like 19, 20, whatever, I forget now. But I made the grave error of saying, I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm just going to stop doing it. Which, as anyone knows, when you first do something, you're not going to understand how to do it properly, right? But I just didn't understand that, and I quit that. And shortly after I quit that, I started listening to our mentor that we have through the RT Accelerator, Andy Frisella, and can I cuss in this podcast?
Yes.
Awesome. So he, in one of those early podcasts, he said, you have to do something for a long fucking time to see results, right? So I was still in school at this point in Oregon State and at a community college, Lynn Benton up in Oregon, because I was living up there at the time. And I was in an entrepreneurship class, and we had to do a project for our final assignment, for our final grade. And we came up with this idea to sell this alcoholic beverage called Jungle Juice, right? And what Jungle Juice essentially is, it is a mixture of fruit juices and one or multiple clear spirits. That essentially was what Jungle Juice is, right? So you can have a lot of different variations of Jungle Juice itself, right? It's extremely, extremely popular at college campuses.
Yeah,
right?
I'm having flashbacks of basement parties, sweat dripping down the walls, and garbage cans full of ice and Jungle Juice.
100%, man. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's gone by so many names, Jungle Juice. What else? I mean, Trash Can Punch. I've heard Hunch Punch before. I've heard a lot of different names for it, right? But it's really, really popular type of drink. And so we came with this idea, and I was still doing this website thing when we came up with this class idea, right? So after I'd stopped doing that website thing, I was looking for my next thing to do. And by pure accident, maybe fate, one could say, I stumbled upon the Google Doc for the business plan for this drink idea, and I was looking at it, and I heard the words of our mentor ringing in my head. You have to do something for a long fucking time until you see results, right? And that is when I was like, you know what? This is a really cool idea. This would be a really fun business to have. I'm going to figure this out no matter how much I do or don't know, no matter how long it takes. I'm going to make it happen, right? And that was a little over 4 years ago. That was January of 2016. And so from then, I just started making phone calls. I just started calling people and just trying to figure out how it all worked. And that has led to today, where we're going to launch our product next month in March down here in California, and as well as in Oregon, and just hit the ground running.
Yeah, I want to touch upon a few things that you just said. Really focus on it, Andrew, because I think it's just so important for the audience. The first thing is the recognition that you got to work on something for a long time, the perseverance, because most people have the whole get-rich-quick scheme, or I'm going to create this idea as an entrepreneur, and I'm going to be different than everyone else, and I'm not going to have to put in the work. But everyone has to put in the work, because as we've learned from being entrepreneurs and from mentors, is that part of the becoming an expert in the field or becoming successful or actually earning money in that field meaning you have to go through the hard shit in order to learn what you need to learn in order to be successful. And without it, you don't have the proper skills to do it. So I think that's one. The second part is you found an opportunity that presented itself that was so obviously right in front of you. I mean, I think about it and people in food and beverage in the field and where I work and the people we co-pack for and all of this, one of the things that people don't realize is that usually the idea is right in front of your face. And you're like, someone had to think of jungle juice. Someone has to have thought of that. Everyone drinks it in the college basement. But it's actually, just because someone's thought of it doesn't mean they ever take the action to put it into play. Or make the steps forward, or fall forward, as we call it a lot on this podcast, to just 100%. Do it. And so I think that's just enormous. So those are two of the things, and we can dive in more, but I want to ask the next question. So you've come up with this idea, you're making phone calls, you're bringing, let's talk about next steps. How did you formulate a product? How did you come up with that? I don't want you to give away any secrets or anything, but I mean, you're now deciding you're going to get into the alcoholic beverage space, which food and beverage have a whole set of regulations in and of itself. And now you're upping it one to alcohol. It's like what we're doing as our company, as we're growing, we're now upping it one to get into CBD infused food. So you're upping it one. So instead of you've had no experience in food and beverage prior, you're just like straight up, I don't know any different. I'm going to go for the gusto on this one and go into alcoholic beverages. So tell me a little bit about that journey in developing a product.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to put one thing out too. So on your first point about perseverance and how it takes a long time, I want to point one thing out. I've spent the last 4 years working on this business and spending money to get this up and running without seeing a single dollar back yet. I want to point that out because I think that's really, really important. Okay, it's been 4 years without making a single dollar, and we have spent a little over 40 grand to get this up and running, right? So that is what it takes to see something come to fruition, right? It has taken 4 years for us to get to the point where we're actually seeing a physical product now that we can now go and sell. I just want to point that out. So now to answer a question you just asked. So after I started calling and, basically I was going back and forth, right? Because I knew what we wanted to make, right? It was jungle juice. I knew what the end product was. So that was helpful, because I knew what the end product in mind was, and I was able to, I knew what jungle juice was. I had been around jungle juice before. I've drank a fair amount of jungle juice in my time, right? And so I just started calling different distilleries and manufacturers. I called some people in Kentucky, and I talked to them, and I kind of listened to how their whole situation worked out. And I just kind of went around and around until I found a manufacturer that I liked. So I found a manufacturer in Oregon, and I went up to them. I toured their facility. I talked to the person in charge of their private label division. And then I have two business partners. We ended up choosing this particular distillery to manufacture for us, right? So essentially, like you said, like you pointed out, I'm going into this blind, right? I have no idea how any of this works, right? I'm just learning as I go along. There's still a ton of stuff that I don't know yet, right? Right now, I'm working on our licensing side for California, and it is definitely tricky. There's definitely a lot that goes into it. But what happened with our formula, so it took us 3 months to create our formula, right? Because with this specific manufacturer, I don't know how other ones do it, but with who we went with, they charge you a rate for lab time, right? So you go in there. If you're there, it's the hourly rate is cut in half because there's less back and forth. You're just right there, so you just kind of can just figure out on the fly. So we're just sitting there in like a makeshift kind of lab kitchen type deal. And our drink has juice concentrates and extract flavorings along with some neutral grain spirits in there. So basically the guy would proof it down. We would add a different concentrate and extracts, would do a small little sample, talk about it, see what we did like, what we didn't like. And it was just trial and error. Right, we just went through iteration after iteration. Right, we were there for I think about 4 hours or so, 3-4 hours, and we got to a place where we felt comfortable stopping for the day. So that was the first round. The second round, that same gentleman, he did some renditions based on where we had gotten the first time and mailed them to us through FedEx. And we tried those. We liked them, but we were like, there's something still missing here. So then we went back up a third time, right? And this, like I said, this process took 3 months. So we went back up, and then we got to a point where we didn't have to remove anything we put in. We just wanted a little bit more, and we just found that extra little kind of extract flavoring that has kind of pushed the flavor and the sensation to a new angle. And we were like, we love this. This is delicious. We know people are going to like this, right? And that was how we created our formula. So once we had our formula, that was all the fun stuff, right? That was the fun work, And so from there, then it really got down to the nitty gritty stuff, right? From then we had to start sourcing stuff. It was easy because a lot of our alcohol, our proof and alcohol comes from our manufacturer, right? And then our manufacturer set us up with the vendors for both the extract flavorings and the juice concentrate we were using. So that was really easy. But then it came down to sourcing bottles and other little bits, getting labels, getting our label design, we already had a logo. And it was just went through the process of figuring that all out, right? So for me personally, we actually used Fiverr to have our label design, and it came out amazing, right? I sketched up a little something, which was brutal because I'm not a good artist. And I sent it to somebody on Fiverr who had a high rating for wine and liquor beverage labels. And I kind of described what the vibe and the kind of what our business and our product was all about. And he came back with something that was fantastic. It was so awesome, right? We all just loved it. And we just made sure that it fit the regulations of the information you have to have on a liquor label, and then boom, that was done, right? And we just followed that process, that step by step, until we got to where we are now.
And so one of the things I want to talk about, just highlight, is you talked about a lot about trial and error, and I think there's no better way to discover something or have creativity without the willingness for trial and error, especially in food, and the willingness to let people sample it or step away from it yourself and go back to it and sort of push that ball down the field, as a running game versus, a long throw game in the comparison to football. So I think that not enough people realize how important trial and error is as a business and as an entrepreneur. Because without it, we don't stay in that creative space and we don't find creative ways to solve other problems in our business. And I just talked about this earlier, interestingly, is that when we do it and we're creating products and doing trial and error, and we constantly do that as entrepreneurs and in our businesses and encourage our employees to do it, they're actually better at creativity and solving problems. Yes. And it took me a long time to realize that in my own business, that they need to get out of their job a little bit and have a little creativity. And then when they go back to their job and in their station or producing whatever food or beverage they're producing in our company, is they're more creative in their solutions to problems, and they're more likely to solve a problem, which is just an interesting point. The second thing that I want to say is I noticed that you put elderberry in your beverage, which I find interesting as well, because I just did a podcast earlier about elderberry and all the benefits of elderberry for your health, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that that's cool and an interesting coincidence. I've got to pay attention to that elderberry thing. And then lastly is how you used Fiverr, which I think is a great program if you want to have logos designed or any artwork done. We also use 99 Designs for the audience as well. We recommend our clients to both. We also, when we build our own brands, use both. But there are so many cool things you can do out there, which is like you can hold contests to have your logos designed, so you can get multiple artists working on it. You can find one artist you really like you said, and use that one in particular artist. And I love your logo. I love the color palette, and I love that it's almost neon, but there's transitional. And I love the way the red Jungle Juice looks in the bottle with the logo. And
thank you.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
I was going to say, yet again, that was just one of those funny instances where, with the logo, for example. So this was back in 2016, right? Because a buddy of mine just he just kind of we talked it out a little bit here and there from middle school. A buddy of mine about like the name, right? And he brought forward the name Wasteland, right? And I was kind of initially opposed to it because I was really focused on the idea that we're selling jungle juice. And then that night I slept on it. I realized, wait, if we do Wasteland, we can do more than just jungle juice. Why stick to just jungle juice? That's super limiting. And I had some other, I think what was the name I had? I think it was like Zuju or something, like Zuju, something weird like that. I don't remember. And the next day we literally flipped. He really liked the name I came up with, and I really liked Wasteland. Right. And then I expanded it to Wasteland Mixed Drinks. Right. So that way we could do more than just jungle juice. And so he was so we were talking on the phone. He was, at the time, he was going to San Jose State University, and he was like, you know what, there's this guy over here, I'm going to go ask him which one he likes better. So he goes over and asks this guy, right? He's like, listen, dude, I gotta ask you something. If you were to see a liquor product on the shelf and you saw one called Wasteland and one called Zuju, which one would you like more? And this guy said exactly what the conclusion I came to, which was Wasteland, because the name sounds more edgy. And I was like, yes, that is correct. And so from there, we have the name. And I kind of thought, okay, what when I think of Wasteland, what in terms of like edginess kind of out there, like what do I think? Well, I think like barren desert, like Death Valley, Arizona type of like scenery, right? The cowboy and all that kind of thing. So I had a buddy of mine in Oregon who could draw it way better than I could, sketch something up. And then I sent this to a graphic designer who was a friend of a friend, and she came back with that artwork, and we all, yet again, fell in love with it. We were like, yes, this is exactly it. This is exactly what we were looking for. And that's basically how the logo happened.
And I love that. And I think one of the cool things about Wasteland is it has this play on wasted, which I think is pretty cool, just from my perspective. Not like I'm encouraging that behavior, but what I am saying is that there is obviously that tone, and when I think about jungle juice, there's a little bit of that tone with it from my youth. And like I said, the basement parties with sweat dripping down the walls. And
so... sorry.
No,
really
go ahead.
Really the funniest thing about that is that was genuinely and honestly completely unintentional. Like we did not choose the name Wasteland for that whatsoever. I didn't even realize it until somebody pointed it out to me, and I was like, oh my god, holy shit, you were right. I didn't even think about that. I still laugh about that, to this day, because I really wasn't even going for that, but it just kind of worked out that way.
Well, and I think what's one of those things where if you're moving forward and you're always taking steps forward in your business, no matter how long it takes or on your entrepreneurial journeys, that these special things happen that you aren't even aware of, that just sort of come into place, or names or ideas or even trial and error in food products. You come up with something that you didn't intentionally come up with, and it ends up being the most successful thing you product you have or name you have or whatever. So I think the whole play on it is it's an outstanding name. I mean, honestly,
totally
I think
agree.
It's absolutely outstanding.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I want to ask you a question just because you're at the very beginning still, and everyone's like, well, he's been in it for 4 years. How's that the very beginning? That's always the very beginning, I feel like, no matter how much success you have.
Yes, I agree.
Talk to me a little bit about, I mean, you said you have 2 business partners and they were friends. So tell me a little bit about how you engaged them and how you had these conversations to actually form a business, because it's not easy. And I've had different businesses with different business partners and all of that. And it's, some good, some bad. And how did you go about doing that, number one? And number two, how has that relationship or those relationships evolved over the last 4 years?
Yeah, absolutely. So my business partners, it's James and Jared. So Jared is a buddy of mine from high school out here in California. So I've known Jared for I don't know, 12 or 13 years or so, 14 years, somewhere in there. James was a friend of mine from college, because I actually left college. I dropped out for my business because I was fortunate to have school money. And so I took that money, which was about $35,000, and I invested it into the business. That's where we got our initial startup and working capital from. So Jared was actually doing the website thing with me. Then we stopped that, and then I stumbled upon the Jungle Juice idea, and I approached him. I was like, "Listen, this should be our next thing. What do you think?" He's like, "Dude, I'm fucking in. Like, let's do this," right? So Jared was in it, and a few months later, so at the time I was working at a premium Verizon retail store, and I was selling phones, and James comes in, and so James and I had we knew each other through the fraternity scene at Oregon State, and then we kind of lost contact for a little while, and then he happened to be my Samsung rep for my store, right? And so we got to talking, and I was telling him about this thing. And then every time he came in, he kept asking about it, right? And so then finally I was like, dude, like, hey, I would love to talk more about this. Like, do you want to meet up for drinks sometime? He's like, yeah, absolutely. So that night, him and I, because I was living in Oregon at the time, and Jared was still in California because he was still in college himself at the time. I met up with James, with my other friend who was formerly in the business and no longer is, and we were talking about him, and I basically really just pitched the vision, and I really talked about like what we're doing and where it's going to go and what we could do with this and how awesome it's going to be. And he was like, cool. So we're doing this then. Right. And he was like, I want in. And we're like, all right, cool, let's do it. And so I brought him into the business, and it was really all about just kind of pitching and talking about that vision. Kind of really painting the picture of where the company is going to go, where the business is going to go, where the product is going to go, how it's going to affect all of us, and the impact it's going to have on everybody else, right? Those are the kind of key things you have to have when you pitch a vision.
Yeah, right? Always sell the vision to whoever you can hear it as.
Exactly.
As Ed Milet says, you got to be evangelical with your vision of your company and constantly be selling it.
Exactly. Yeah. And the key things too, though, right? The vision can't only be about you, right? Because the moment someone either senses that or picks up on that, you're toast. You're dead in the water, right? The vision has to encapsulate and incorporate, the people who you're going to bring into the business and the organization, right? How they're going to play a role, how they're going to move up, how it's going to improve their lives. And then on top of that, how it's going to benefit the lives of other people, right? Because you can, talk about how much better a certain thing is going to make someone's life, right? But guess what? You can make your own life better by selling like, hardcore, horrible drugs and making a bunch of money and living a rich life. Right. Yeah. But it's not going to help the person using the drugs. Right. So you have to really also touch on how it's going to positively affect other people, And so our whole thing with Wasteland is we want to use this drink as a catalyst to bring people together and help them create amazing memories that they're not going to forget. Right? Because that was my favorite thing at parties, is being able to connect other people. Right? We're all there to have a good time and have some drinks. Right? But the real benefit of it is meeting other people, building those connections, and then building upon those connections of the people you already know and the new people you meet. Yeah. Right? And so that's what you want to use this drink for. Right. And so you really have to, touch upon those things. And I really, I really believe in that mission. Right. And so I really spoke that into existence and using this company to do exactly that. And they were both really on board. Right. And so, we've really grown a lot stronger, the three of us, through our struggles. Right. Because the reason why it's taken so long to get this up and running is because we've had so many different delays of getting the product up and going. So the first one, the biggest one, was when we initially created the product. We had it at 15% alcohol, 38 proof. And so when we were kind of talking about it one day, the three of us were talking, and we kind of were like, you know what? We want this to be about $20 on shelf in store. It's going to be a hard sell to sell a 15% alcoholic beverage for $20. Let's bump it up. And so we ended up bumping up to 30% because that's where the flavor really still stayed really well. And that alcohol, the alcohol level didn't disrupt anything, right? So we went with 30% alcohol, and that added an extra year and a half onto our launch time and bringing it to market. And then after that, we had the government shutdown, delayed us another 4 or 5 months because the Trade and Tax Bureau, which is the governing body, the federal governing body of alcohol, they shut down too because no one was getting paid. So that delay or label approval, which ironically is the shorter of the processes, which between the formula approval and label approval, right? Yeah. And then after that, we had a issue with our trademarking. It turns out the people who we initially went to, they didn't tell us that there was somebody else in the country who, had a too similar of a name, right? And so in the alcohol space. And so we got denied, and I never even heard anything. And I was trying to contact them and heard nothing back. So I had a fellow Arte member help me out, and now we're back up and running, and we were able to keep the name, thank God, which was fantastic because it's an awesome name. But after that, then we were short $10,000 in money because it was an expensive process, right? So then I had to go get an unsecured line of credit for the business. And so all those different things have just tallied up to it taking just so long to get to market. Yeah, but we've really grown really strong through that struggle. And I really do believe that the best way to bond with somebody is to go through something challenging with them.
Absolutely. And I want to touch on something because I talk about this a lot on the podcast, and anyone I mentor or anyone we work with in the co-packaging space, food is merely the vehicle by which we do something. It actually doesn't define us. It may be the business by which we help people or help people grow. But if we look at it that whether we're a restaurant or whether we're producing food for a grocery store or a beverage or whatever it is, the thing you're actually creating, you nailed it on the head, is the memories. Everyone eats. 3-4 times a day. Everyone drinks probably 10, 12 beverages a day, including coffee, and every event that we have that we get together with our family or our friends usually surrounds food or drink. Those are merely the vehicles that bring us together to form those memories. So when you think about it, you want to put the best quality product out there. You want to put the best quality service out there if you're a restaurant. And you want to invest in these people's lives because, especially as your customers, because you're helping them build memories. And the better you do, the better memories they have. And interestingly, usually if you go somewhere, the best memories you have are when something bad happened and you conquered through it as a family. But what I'm saying is that you have the ability to create memories for people, have the ability for people to connect, like you said. And that's really what food and beverage is about. It's merely the vehicles by which we do it. And it's more important than that. Obviously, we survive off it. It's how we get our nutrition and blah, blah, blah. But the real part is that it does connect us and that it does build memories. So I think that's one of the the important things you said. The other part is the label approval process for anything in food and beverage. People don't understand this, and I deal with this all the time, is that it is the hardest process. Every single product you bring forward needs a label approval. Every single product that you need needs to go through some, analysis of some sort. So there's a lot of things. You can't just create a product and bring it to market. There's a lot of governing bodies, whether it's the USDA or the FDA or the, alcohol, tobacco, fire. Yeah, exactly. And I misquoted the bureau, but it's
that's okay.
It's one of those things you just have to have the patience to get through it, and you have to be aware you're going to get through it. And when you launch your first product in food or in beverage, and in your case, particularly in alcohol, which takes even longer, you're looking at 2 to 3 years to begin with. And now add in alcohol or CBD in food and the regulations, it's probably going to take longer if you don't have previous experience in that area or arena, however you want to phrase it. So I think those are pretty cool. So let's talk more about this. You're now ready to go to market. So you're getting in your first order from your co-packer, as we discussed before we got on the podcast, just to get everyone up to date. So tell me what it took, one, to get to the point of being able to get the co-packer to produce it all, and two, tell me what your plans are now to really go out and market this product and get it into people's hands.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So the drink's been produced now at this point, and so now we're basically just really working on our licensing, which that is the more difficult part, because I don't speak lawyer, to put it simply. But pretty much what it really took was, it was basically a coordination of a lot of moving pieces, right? And so the big thing I really want to touch on is this is something you can't do alone. You definitely need help. And so don't think this is something that you can just simply do by yourself, because it's not so cut and dry. I've had a lot of help from my business partners to my manufacturer. They've been a huge help, between information and education and answering questions and guidance and that whole thing. I've had friends and other people around me who've been really helpful as well. So it was basically getting over those hurdles that got it to this point. And it was really just a perseverance that we touched upon at the very beginning of this podcast, right? Like, you have to keep pushing, right? Because, even if you've been through the ringer once or twice, you're always going to be learning something new, and you have to keep pushing to get that, especially when it's something you believe in, to get that product to market. Right? It doesn't happen in one go. We've had so many setbacks, but I believe that all those setbacks are just proof that if we can persevere and get through them, the other side is just so amazing. Right? So it's really just taking those phone calls, doing the work, and coordinating all those moving pieces between all the different supplies from different vendors to all the location gets to, having to deal with freight and transportation, which that by itself is a whole area of knowledge that you need to know. Right. Yeah. You understand. Yeah. And that kind of stuff, to, testing different batches and that kind of stuff. Right. Cause I remember, right before they were going to bottle, my manufacturer, he gave me my point of contact, gave me a call, and he said, "Hey, listen, so we finished producing the drink. Now we have two options. I tasted it. It tastes good to me. I can either just go ahead now and start bottling, or I can overnight you a sample and you can improve it. What do you want to do?" And I was like, you know what? Let's overnight me one. I want to just double check, since it's the first batch. He overnighted it. I tasted it. I got it that next day. I tasted it. It was phenomenal as it is. And I called them up. I was like, "Hey, let's rock and roll. Let's get it going." Right? Like, we're good to go. And then they started bottling it, and so now that we're produced, and now, like I said, I'm working on the licensing, because that is a whole beast of its own. And so from there on out, basically the way we've looked at it, and so everything I've evaluated, I've read books on it, I've talked to other people in this space. What it looks like is, for a consumable good product, you want to follow what I'm sure it's already been called this, but what I like to call the staircase model. And what that means is that you get X amount of accounts at first, and you fulfill those accounts, right? And you get it to where the velocity of your product, velocity being the number of units you sell in a certain time period, that's velocity, right? However you measure that. Some people it's per week, some people per day, some people per month, whatever works for you. So you drive that velocity to them till you roughly figure you're about maxing it out. And then once you have that, you figure out the fulfillment capabilities you need to have to get X more accounts. So let's say we start with 10, right? That'll give us a lot of data and how much we're selling, how quickly we're moving through product, how quickly these locations are moving through products, right? And how that tells us how soon we need to order for another batch of product. How long will the lead times be for everything, and that sort of thing, right? And then you can go to a whole new set of accounts. Say, hey, listen, these accounts are doing this. What do we need for you to be able to get into this location? And that's kind of, more or less like how it's going to have to go. And, we negotiate that out, right? And then we get those new accounts and we just follow that system until we're all over the place, right? So that's kind of the model we're looking at. And then on top of that, we're looking on both a heavy use of social media marketing and just straight up guerrilla marketing, right? Going in, talking to people, going to the bars, talking to consumers, really promoting the product person to person, because we care. We care about the consumer. We care about our product. We care about this organization, right? And we want to bring this because we believe in this product so much, right? So between those three things, I really believe that we're going to have a successful run with our product here.
And so I love this concept because you're basically building it as you go and you perfect one step before you bring it to the next step. So Is your hopes to do it in California first, and that's sort of where you're going to plant your flag? You guys are local. You can sort of go there. Is that sort of you're going to start off small in your local area and then grow? Tell me a little bit about that, how you envision it regionally, because I think it's important. Right. Food and beverage, it's a little bit different in the strategy that you need to use in order to grow your brand.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So what we're actually planning right now on doing is we're going to slowly roll out on both the Oregon and California market, because one of my business partners lives in Oregon right now, and then myself and my other business partner live in California, right? So we're going to roll out slow in both locations and really get a really good base and a base of consumers that really love the product, and really push that word of mouth and that guerrilla advertising style, so that we get more raving loyal fans of our drink and of us as a company. And so we're going to go that route, because I prefer to start slowly and really roll out the right way. And, we're going to make mistakes no matter what, and I'm okay with that. But I'd rather get people who genuinely love the drink and love us than roll out just stupid fast to where we can't even keep up with it, where people are like I'll drink it here and there if I want to. It's whatever, because that's not going to build a strong base, and that's not going to build a company that we can run for a long time, right? So we're looking at both of those markets right now because they both have their advantages and disadvantages, and we have the manpower to be able to roll out in both as well.
Yeah, so let's talk about this a little bit as well, because I'm going to tie it into where you are now. So over the last 4 years, you're obviously trying to start this business. You're on your entrepreneurial journey. You've got the product. You're aiming in a direction, but in the meantime, you've also got to live, right? So you're working other jobs, and right now, to tie it all together, you're going to have to continue to work those other jobs, so you have money that can be pumped into your company, and also so you obviously can keep a roof over your head. So tell me a little bit about that and the thinking behind it, and sort of your motivation and how you keep going, because it takes a lot, right? It's not easy to do multiple things 100%. At once when you want to be doing the one thing, but the one thing doesn't pay yet.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I work a full-time job right now. I work 40 hours a week, and plus whatever overtime I have to do, right? And so basically what it is for me is I look at it, as paying my dues, right? I would not consider myself traditionally like a hireable person, but I put that front on, and I kind of stow away my ego so that I can get the job done at my full-time gig. right? But if anything, to be honest, the way I really look at it is I look at it as my business is my full-time gig, and then my full-time job is my side hustle that pays me right now. That's more the way I look at it, right? And it's not to say that I don't go off to do the best job I can at my full-time job. That's not the case. I hustle, right? But that being said, I really, on all the other minutes that I'm not, working on we're working my full-time job, I am, working on my business, right? I'm working on getting everything up and rolling and figuring things out. That's what I do on my off day. Like I don't have, to be frank, I don't really have much of a social life on purpose, specifically because I'm trying to get shit going and get things up and running. Right. Because the way I look at it is that I'd rather sacrifice my social life and having traditional fun right now. And I still do fun things, obviously. Everyone does. But I'd rather put that sacrifice in now so that in 5 years, 3 years, 7 years, 10 years, whatever it's going to be, to when we're really, when we get on the cusp of just starting to kill it, that, everything comes together and I have such an amazing life that it was all worth it. And that we have such an amazing company and amazing employees and amazing customers that all that sacrifice was worth it. So this, yet again, what this really comes back to is that vision, right? That vision is going to propel you forward, right? Because the way I like to kind of look at it is that vision, passion, and discipline. There's a bit of a feedback loop there. Right? You have that vision that really fuels your passion for that thing, right? And your passion is what allows you to get your reps in, right? And then the more reps you get in, the more you build your discipline up. So on the days where you're lacking that passion or that motivation, you're able to still get after it, right? Because it's so ingrained in you, doing it day in and day out. Right. So I just really look at where we're going and where I want to take this company and lead this company with my business partners, because they're phenomenal. Like I said, I'm not doing this alone. Right. I don't want to paint I don't want to make the impression that I am Mr. Like the only one doing things or making it happen. Like I have a lot of help and I have a team that really, that we have a team that really, supports our vision and that goal to build this company up. Right. Like I'm not the one who's making it all happen. I want to definitely stress that because I think that's an important thing to hit on. So really, like I said, what it comes down for me is really just chasing after that vision and always reminding myself and letting it fuel me day in and day out.
And I want to talk about something that you're doing, which is, I'd work my job. I'd landscape on weekends when I got out of school and just for extra money. And then, my job during the day was my job and my career, but I wasn't where I wanted to be because we had this successful food company, but I wanted more and I needed to put more money into it. So I would work landscaping for another friend who had a landscaping gig growing up. And then even before that, when I was in college, I also did the multi-level marketing thing to try to make money in college. It was a very tough thing and learned a lot of hard lessons there. And even before that, I grew up on a farm and I would basically lease the farm tractors and the lawn mowers from my parents and go out and mow people's fields and lawns and whatever I could do to hustle money in the door because I wanted to do that. But what actually ended up happening is once you crossed over a threshold of, okay, now I'm making enough money where I don't need to pump more money into the company, I can reinvest the existing money. One, I have enough money for myself and my family. Two, I now knew how to work 80 hours a week. And I was already in the habit of doing it with doing two jobs. 80 hours is just a guess. It was probably more than that based on my hustling and spending every minute on the businesses and then trying to balance somewhat of a social life at the time. But what I am saying is that you create this habit and people are like, oh my gosh, why do you work so hard? And why do you do this? And why aren't you out having fun? And there's sort of this attitude like you're missing out. But the reality is you're planning on not missing out your entire life. You're planning on taking advantage of your time now and forming the habits to do so. And it's a side consequence of having to go through this where you're having to work multiple jobs in order to get a business off the ground. And so now I have trouble with downtime, still to this day, like, Deborah, my fiance, she's always like, the worst thing for Justin is if he has any time to think or any time to sit down, because that's when, the trouble, or he gets, I can barely sit down and watch TV because I'm always on to something. I'm always wanting to do something, even the podcast. She's like, how are you going to find time to do the podcast? Well, I found time to do the podcast.
Right.
And so I think when you get in the habit of doing that and always having a work ethic, as long as there's a direction and with a purpose, you can move in that direction successfully, and it's what you're doing now. And it's why I wanted you to talk about it a little bit, because I think it's so important, because people don't understand. They just want their business to get off the ground, quit their job, and go full into their business. Well, that's you're robbing yourself of an opportunity to learn how to work all the time, and you're robbing yourself of an opportunity to have money to invest in your business to help scale it faster when the time comes. And you're robbing yourself of just the educational part, because you can learn stuff from other people in an existing career that you can apply to a new job. And even if they're not the same, your company, like, for example, you were talking about Verizon, that has nothing to do with alcohol, but you can apply things, sales and retail and ideas, and there's concepts you can extrapolate out that then you can apply to your entrepreneurial business. So it's a way to expedite your education. And believe me, I've spent way too much money on my education and MBAs and all that, and I went through the whole thing, and at the end of the day, I'm like, I spent money to go back to school, while keeping my jobs, while running career and building these businesses, and by job I mean my own businesses, because I thought I needed to learn more. And the reality is no matter how much I paid, I never learned as much as actually doing it. And in fact, I was bored most of the time because I already knew most of it, because I had already been through the field of doing it. That doesn't mean I didn't learn certain things from school that I didn't know before, but a majority of the things that you need to learn in running an entrepreneurial business doesn't come from education. It comes from actually just experiencing it yourself. And if you're a doctor or whatever, engineer, obviously you need to go to school. That's just not what I chose to do. So let's talk go ahead.
Yeah, no, I do. I completely agree. Lessons are going to apply. Like a lesson here is going to apply there, because the principles are always going to be the same, right? For example, I used to sell cars, right? Selling cars, the principle of sales and selling cars is going to be the exact same principles of selling when I sell my drink, right? When I sold phones, the principles of selling phones applies the exact same way to selling phones as it does to selling cars. The principles do not change. Right? The topic may change, the item may change, but the principles never change, right? So you always have to understand that, right? Learning how to do a kick-ass job at your day job is going to transition over to your business, and vice versa, right? I believe this to a degree, because I think everything has an exception, but how you do one thing is how you do everything, right? The effort on how you put into your day job, there's a good chance it's going to reflect over to your business, and vice versa, right? It's been said before, if you treat your business like a hobby, it's going to pay you like a hobby, which is nothing, right? Yeah. So you have to get in that mindset that that you're going to have to do the work. There's no way around it. There's this one video that goes around Instagram, and I've seen it on Facebook a bunch, where it's like a number of entrepreneurs, Elon Musk and Steve Jobs, and a number of other ones, and every single little clip of each of them is saying, as each of them are talking about how much you have to work. You have Elon Musk there saying you have to work 80 to 100 hours a week. He's not kidding. If you want to do something, revolutionary, you have to put in the hours. There's no way around it, right? The reason why, there's two big reasons, right? Number one is that if you don't put in the hours, nothing's going to happen. That's the first thing, right? Reason number two is that if you don't put in the hours, you won't learn anything, right? One of the biggest reasons why I left school is when I would sit there and I would be being told stuff, essentially, because I feel that, it's only a small amount of school where you're really learning, but that's just me. When I'm, sitting there being lectured to, I'm absorbing this information and being like, okay, how am I going to apply this in real life?
Yep.
See, I mean, literally, when I was in college, I would be sitting there like, okay, cool. How is this going to make me money? I would sit there like, okay, how is this going to make me money? And I came to the conclusion that most of that stuff is not going to make me money. And that is why I dropped out. Because when I was in my entry level business classes in school, my professors would say one thing. Then I would go on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and I listened to Gary Vee, Grant Cardone, and Andy Frisella, Ed Mylett, Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, et cetera, right? And all of them would be saying the exact opposite thing of my professors. And then I came to the conclusion, I'm like, well, you know what? These guys are making the money, and they're in it every single day. My professor, no disrespect, is just teaching.
Well,
they're not out there getting after it.
And that's number one. And number two is all education is looking through a rearview mirror. It's already stuff that's happened. And in business, if you're looking in the rearview mirror, you aren't going anywhere. You know? So in order to do that, you need to be learning on the fly and taking risks and doing things. And obviously, a lot of time those are calculated risks. And as you've seen, everyone's going to see, oh my God, you got this product out there, and you may be an overnight success, but the reality is no one sees all the time and the effort put in. And it's like the Malcolm Gladwell book, Tipping Point. The hours are important, not only because your practice. I know people talk about the Beatles and the 10,000 hours in the clubs in Germany before they perfected this skill, but the same is true in business. You actually need to practice it. And it's not because you're only perfecting a skill, you're failing at things, you're learning things, and you've got all these opportunities to grow if you're willing to, and to accept it as opportunities to grow in your business. So you need to go through it. You need to put in that time, because without that time, you're not going through those things. And it's not something you can just go into a classroom and learn, because there's not the emotional response. There's not a lot of risks there, and you're paying for it. So it's a little bit different than trying to make something of it.
I think the biggest thing too, like in the difference between like school and actually executing on a real business, right, is that in school there's no real consequence if you don't figure it out. Does that make sense? It's like for example, in my with my licensing stuff I'm dealing with right now, if I don't figure this out, my business is dead in the water. I have no choice. Right. But in a classroom, if I don't figure it out, okay, cool, I can just go try. I can try again the real world too. But what I'm getting at is that there's no real immediate consequence to not really figuring it out, right? And conversely, on the flip side, right, little tangent about school, right? In school, when you fail something, you get stuck and held back. In real life, when you fail something, right, you might you'll definitely take a step back, but you can come back at it and continue again. Right, that's one of my biggest issues with education, right? And overall, right, when I was in high school, we had another number of kids who failed classes and were held back, right? But in reality, in the real world, when you fail something, as long as you learn the lesson, you will bounce back. As long as you learn the lesson and do the work, you're going to bounce back and get past it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're going to do it right the next time, right? And so, I think that's the biggest discrepancy between the two, because I remember when I was initially calling around and calling people about how this whole liquor industry thing worked. When I was talking to this distillery or whatever it was, or co-packer in Kentucky, I literally had to verify that I wasn't a student doing a project. Specifically, so I didn't waste their. Because they've had people students call in doing projects, pretending to be real, and just waste their time.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So. And so I had to verify I wasn't a student, so they would actually even answer my questions. And I think that really goes to show you, I don't know, to me that really paints a big picture of the difference between the two.
No, and I know exactly what that is. It's actually why we don't even advertise that we do co-packing on our website, because we'd rather just have people word of mouth come to us, because when we did, you get ridiculous phone calls from people that aren't serious. The serious people are willing to do the work to come find you. The
Exactly.
not so
Yep.
serious people, or the people who are really not going to put in the effort, just want to pick up the phone and talk to someone and get what they need, and then they're not willing to work for it. The people that are willing to work for it will find what they need, figure out how to get it, and then move forward. And those are the people you want to work with on our side. And on your side, you want the people who are serious about working with you and commit their time to you, especially as a co-packer. You want to make sure that that person's investing in you, not wasting their time with someone who's wasting their time. So,
Exactly.
and I want to, and don't get me wrong, I think you want to treat all people nicely and
Of course.
things like that. But at some point, you got to take care of the people that are taking care of you. So, it's one of those balances of business. So, and I'm not saying to be a jerk. I'm just saying, you got to protect your business. So.
Oh, totally agree. No, I'm right there with you. I mean, because at a certain point, if you're just dealing with people who are just going to waste your time, and it's obvious they're just going to waste your time. I mean, like, there's nothing wrong with helping somebody out, answering some questions because they're curious. But if that's all you do, I mean, you're not going to have a successful business. It's just what it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's just one of those things, and the biggest thing too, the biggest thing that I think people miss out on, right, is that, because everyone talks about learning the lessons from your mistakes, but there's one more step after that. It's actually applying those lessons. Yeah. I think people really miss that step, because you can learn a lesson and not apply it, right? That's how repeat mistakes happen. That's something that we've all been through. A lot of us have, I mean, I think everyone's touched the stove twice in their life. You know what I mean? And so I think that's another really important concept that I don't think it's talked about a lot either.
No, and it is very true, the insanity thing. Continue to do the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And that's that's one of those things where you've really got to take the time and pause. Really, pausing is an important thing in business, and there's a reason things take a long time and you want to put in the time, is having the ability to pause and reflect on what just happened so you don't do it again, and then form the habits moving forward so it doesn't happen again, or what is a trigger that you'll know that may happen again so you can pivot before it does. I mean, that takes a while, and it takes the skills, and again, it goes back to what you were saying, is the amount of time you have to put in order to make that a habit, or something that just comes naturally in the long run. But I think the truth is, as long as you're always willing to learn and be a lifetime student, you'll always grow, and you'll always pivot, and you'll always continue to make progress towards perfecting your skill. Obviously, there's no perfection, but you can always make steps to get there. And I think that's important in underlying in what you said. So, Andrew, as we sort of start running down time, I want to give you a chance to sort of talk to the audience about anything you feel is important for them to take away as entrepreneurs based on your experience so far.
Yeah. So what you just said, be a lifetime student. And on my podcast, I talk a lot about that. You need to be a lifetime student, and from all, in all different areas, right? From reading books, watching the educational videos, podcasts, talking to other people and kind of, talking about ideas and that sort of thing, and really nailing down, all the way to executing on stuff, right? Go try some stuff, right? Try to figure it out without it costing a crazy amount of time or money, right? But it's going to happen. You're going to have trial and error, right? But the biggest thing is that if you continue, keep improving, right? Your potential is limitless. Right. If you keep getting better, you keep focusing on getting better. The next thing is you have to persevere. Right. Like I said earlier, I have gone through 4 years of building my business without seeing a single dollar return to me. That is not easy. Right. Like you mentioned, Justin, people don't see, once you're kind of, doing well, they don't see all the behind the scenes, the hardship and all that kind of stuff. I really wish we did a better job of documenting that. But hindsight's 2020. There have been number of so many days where I'm sitting in my room. I'm like, holy shit, is this really worth it? Like, am I really cut out for this? I'm not going to lie and say that's never happened. That's happened a number of times, where shit is just so crazy that you're like, oh my God, this is insane. Like, what am I doing right now? That has happened a number of times, right? But even still, you have to stay true to the vision and your goals, and and persevere. Right? The tactics might change. You might make some pivots. You will make some pivots. Right? I've had to make a number of pivots with our product and our business. Right? But you have to stay true to that vision and keep getting after it. There's only, like, stop quitting on yourself. Right? Stop quitting on on your future. Right? Because I'm fortunate. At a very young age, I've realized I have two options. Right? I can just go do nothing with my life and die and be forgotten, or I can go and I can actually do something and affect people and affect change and make something happen and have people remember me. Right? There's no in between. Like, there really is no in between, whether we like it or not. That's just a harsh reality of the situation of life itself. You either kind of, have a good time, or even if you work hard and you are a good parent and that kind of thing, those are all things you should strive for, right? But, at a certain point, you're going to be forgotten, and if that's okay with you, nothing wrong with that whatsoever, right? But for me personally, I don't want to be forgotten. Right. I want to, and this is beyond this having an alcohol company, right? Because honestly, if I'm only remembered for having some cool alcohol company, I'm going to be kind of disappointed, actually really disappointed. I love my company, but that's just a reality, right? If you want to do something big in life, it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of perseverance, and you're going to have to get after it daily, and it's going to be hard, but, over the course of history, it's going to be worth it. Look at Kobe Bryant, right? Kobe Bryant died recently, and this has been the biggest uppouring and outpouring I've ever seen of love for a public figure passing away. And I really think it's a testament to the impact he had on people's lives and the impact he's going to, continually have on people's lives. So that is what I strive to have and be. So those are really my parting thoughts overall.
And so, Andrew, quick, tell us about your podcast and what your mission is with your podcast, and what the name of it is and where they can find you.
Absolutely, yeah. So my podcast is on the major platforms, Spotify and Apple, and Google Podcasts. It's called the Andrew Lacayo Show. I basically talk about these types of topics. I am looking at bringing more guests on to talk about stuff outside of simply just business and success, so that there's a more broader scope of learning. But right now, that's what it's about. It's called the Andrew Lacayo Show. Like I said, you can find it on most major platforms. And that's pretty much what I touch. You can connect with me on Instagram and Facebook at Andrew Lacayo. On Instagram, it's Andrew_LACAYO. That Instagram's probably where I'm the most active. But I'm also on LinkedIn and Facebook and all that. And soon to be on YouTube. I'm on the back end. I'm trying to figure out the YouTube game as well. And that's where you can find all my stuff at.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out the YouTube game as well, still to this day. So that's a whole other monster. But it is. It's one of those things where I want to challenge myself and get the knowledge so I can learn it. So the other part is, as we talk about this, one of the things I want to do, Andrew, is I want to have you back on the show in a few months and sort of talk about the launch of you getting your product out there, finalizing, the launch and the lessons you learn as you bring a product to market. I think it'd be cool to just talk about that story and how that goes and the lessons you learn along the way, if that's cool with you.
Absolutely. I would love that. That'd be awesome.
And thanks again, Andrew. And before you get off, can you tell the audience where they can find you on social media and stuff for Wasteland?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So on Instagram and Instagram and Facebook, we are at Wasteland Mixed Drinks. We're going to be heavily using the hashtag Wasteland. So that's a hashtag you can follow if you are a hashtag follower on Instagram. And those are the places. We will also be on YouTube in the future too. I'm just getting that all set up and running because we're going to be heavy on the video content for sure. And so, those are probably like the top three platforms that we're going to be on. And then I'm doing a little investigation on the TikTok how that all works out too. So I'm going to figure that out as well. That should be interesting.
I'm doing that as well. I agree with everyone that it's going to be the next big thing, and there's no 100%. Real algorithms back there trying to control the information. So it's a really cool concept, all video,
exactly.
Short videos, and people actually use it, and I'm a little bit addicted to it sometimes, in that you get on there sometimes and there's all these people doing all these crazy dance moves, and you're like, how are they doing that? But I agree. I think it's the next big platform for social media or something similar. 100%. And even if it's not exactly that one, they've got the right idea. So perfecting that skill is going to be important for any business or entrepreneur, particularly because the next generation that's coming up in high school and college, that's what they're going to use. And if you want to get into those generations and have them as customers, you better start figuring out how to communicate with them. So
exactly.
It's pretty
100%.
Cool. So thank you again, Andrew, and thank you everyone for listening in. Everyone have a great day, and thank you for listening to Justin and the Food Entrepreneurs podcast.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.